So I was just listening to Doughboys, which is one of my favorite podcasts. It has been for years. They've been running for about 10 years. And Mike Mitchell, the Spoon Man, he's one of the two co-hosts. And they're doing, the episode is Little Caesars 3 with John O. Wilson. They're ostensibly a chain restaurant podcast. And they take it seriously, but it's just like the perfect level of comedy, and I think those guys are so great. But there's this moment where Jono, the guest, brings up Humble Brag. And now Humble Brag was invented by Harris Whittles, who was one of Mitch's best friends and a comedian. You probably recognize him as one of the animal control guys on Parks and Rec. He was a writer for Parks and Rec. He was kind of like shooting to superstardom, but unfortunately he died of an opioid overdose. I think it was in 2015. And this little moment, though, was really beautiful because Mitch was like very close friends with Harris, and they talk about Harris a lot on the podcast. And so this little moment was very cool because Mitch was able to tell Jono, my friend invented the word humble brag, which Harris did. He was a great tweeter back in the days when Twitter sucked but was still good. And just that little moment of Mitch sharing with one of his other... So this guy, Jono, he's apparently going to be on Twisted Metal, the show, which Mitch is on. That's why he's on. And so these two have like had this friendship and made this new connection in the last couple of years. And just to see like... there's a YouTube video of this podcast I was watching. And just to see that little moment of Mitch, like, remembering his friend Harris and even, like, bringing his new friend in on, look at this cool thing my friend did, was just really special. And I think about Harris very often, specifically in connection to Riley. And it's really hard. I actually, his sister wrote a book after he died, and it's all kind of about addiction and his struggles. And Riley and Harris's drug use are very different, and they died of different drugs. But I think of Harris a lot, and even Harris's birthday was 4/20. And 4/20 was the day in 2023 which Riley went into the detox center. And when I went in and helped them, and we had like really good talks, and it was both very scary, and also I was so proud of them for like taking the steps. And so I just think about Harris a lot because it was 2015 when Harris died. And part of me wants to kick myself because like I've learned about the drug problems in our country, and I know that it's like the ways that drug users are stigmatized, and there's lots of lessons that I know I learned from Stephanie Whittles Walks. She's the Harris's sister. And she also did a podcast, I think, afterwards, which I didn't listen. I've heard her on a couple other podcasts. But anyway, so there's a tinge of sadness when I think about Harris, and he was just so funny, and Riley was so funny. Usually around 4/20. I don't know if I've done this in a while, but I'd go back and listen to some of Harris's Comedy Bang Bang appearances because he was one of Comedy Bang Bang's best ever guests. But yeah, it was sweet to see Mitch talk about Harris, and all in all, even though I want to kick myself for knowing about drug addiction and not 100% saving Riley's life and taking control or whatever, which I know that's just my pain talking. But the reality of it is, through this podcast that I like and through Mitch and the way that he shares about Harris, like I've always appreciated that. And probably that was like one of the many things which helped plant a seed for me being able to talk about Riley, and especially in the 6 months after they died when I made a lot of videos kind of processing and sharing. But this little moment of Mitch I thought was very sweet, and it made me think a lot about Harris and a lot about Riley and just how much I loved Riley as someone I knew and how much I parasocially loved Harris as a podcast listener who works in a lab. So those are my thoughts. Oh, this is just the little bear print. This is the bear that I saw a year after Riley died on their anniversary of their death. And Bjorn was Riley's middle name, which translates to Little Bear, and so Riley was always known as Little Bear. And so this was 1,000,000% Riley, like my first time ever seeing a bear, and I chanced upon it, and I happened on my telephoto, and I took this picture, and so it's really nice to be able to put this up on my wall. Okay, everybody, peace out, dudes.